everybody, happy Monday. We're back for some Q&A. You know, I love you guys. This is really cool, by the way. It's been amazing to me how many of you guys actually watch these things. You know, when I first started making them, it was a little bit of a tree in the forest. There wasn't, other than the 4 people who asked questions, but it's pretty amazing to see how many of you guys are benefiting from other people's questions, which is what I had hoped all along in doing this. Hope you guys are having a good week. We just went on a little family adventure yesterday and saw some whales, some flying stingrays, some sea lions, all in the wild too, which is pretty amazing. You don't always see whales in the wild, but we saw a bunch of humpback whales beside our boat, so that was just really fucking epic. And also, just so you guys know, I'm going to be dropping a crypto training in this group is about how we're basically taking our agency marketing skills, like, because this is a transferable skill, and putting it into the crypto space, but doing it more of like a consulting role where all you got to do for delivery side is just come up with a plan and tell people what the plan is. So it's very, very easy from deliverable. You can often get millions of tokens as the upside, and you can get paid for the consult. So the worst case scenario, you get an hour or two paid consult. The upside is you can get millions of tokens that even if they're worth like a penny or 50 cents, you can, make an obscene fortune on it. So I got a list of all your questions and stuff, so I will be putting that together. I don't know exactly which day, but it'll be over the next couple of days, just when I feel, I guess, inspired to do it. Other than that, let's get into the good stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Frankie Fihn proudly brings to you our weekly Q&A. All right, first up, we got Mike. Favorite software of contract signing, looking for something that can link into automation. 2 that I hear most often, Mike, is HelloSign and DocuSign. Those are the 2. Like, DocuSign's like the 800-pound gorilla, been around the longest. HelloSign is like, I guess, like a cheaper alternative. I don't use either. This will blow people's mind, but I actually don't use contracts with lawyers. It's so simple. I make first aid offers that say, let's try it. If it doesn't work, there's very, very low risk. And then it's like, here's what we could do ongoing. If you don't like it, you can cancel anytime. I don't want to keep you if you're unhappy with it, but it's really, really simplified things to not have to have lawyers and contracts. It would blow your mind, right? Because I'm dealing with the most regulated contract-heavy niche in the world, and we don't use contracts, and they don't mind, and they don't ask for it. Jason says, why do a lot of Facebook ad guys not offer other services? SEO can be a great back-end product. Jason, this is a deeper thing in general. People, when they think about making more revenue in their business, whatever their business is, there is this Amish idea that the only way to do it is to get more new people. So if you sign a client to add in more new people, and you would be amazed that back ends and upsells and cross sells are where all the real money's made. And when you understand that, you can walk into businesses and help them with their back end and their resources, and also do it in your own and have a whole lot more success with a lot less people. And a lot less having to convert cold strangers. So I'm glad you brought that up because that is a very, very good point. Tim says, how much are you guys paying for every call booked by a VA? By the way, any VA here who can do this job for our agency, thanks. Tim, I'd say typically $100 to $250 is, depending on your niche, is pretty typical for a booked call. Having said that, I don't think enough people focus on the quality of the calls that they're actually getting, and too many people get really obsessed with quantity of calls. And I've had the experience of, like, you get on a phone call and somebody's like 3 out of 10 out of the idea of working together, and you can almost feel their arms cross, folded energy, like, I'm like, sell me there, big boy. And I much prefer now to only even speak with people who are 7, 8, 9, and 10, and somebody who's 3, instead of jumping on the phone with them, I'll send them more marketing materials so they can either warm up or decide we're not a fit. But it's a much more leveraged, efficient use of your time. And I actually think it's better for selling because it's very energetically draining to do like 40 sales calls in a week and have it be with a bunch of people who are like kind of only partially interested in what you do. So I wouldn't recommend that. But yes, $100 to $250 is the benchmark, but I would focus on getting less calls and more but better. That's just me, and focus on like how many of those calls are actually leading to sales and how many of those are the right kind of people, because I'd rather pay $500 for the right kind of person and the right kind of call than $100 for volume, like as just one example. So I hope that helps you. Jay says, I'm in the home service niche, and business has been pretty good for these guys in the U.S. I get a lot of I'm booked out for weeks as a response to my lead gen pitch. Are you guys hearing the same? How do you counter that objection? Really, Jay, I've found two ways. One is if you don't keep prospecting, you'll eventually be slow. That's one version of it. But I think the much better version is you guys in the home contracting niche, is if they're telling you they're full and they're drowning in delivery, use your marketing skills to fucking help them in the delivery. Like, what do they need? They need qualified help. They need like people who can do the work for them, right? So that how do you find good employees? You advertise, right? And you generate leads, and you follow up with those leads, and you sell your business, and you pre-sell them, and you have like a first date. So I would say if they're telling you they're booked solid, say, hey, do you need any help getting employees right now? And you'd be amazed. You can help them fill their pipeline by getting them qualified help. So I look at don't try to force marketing services on somebody who doesn't want them. Look where the problems are, and then see how you can be useful solving those, and you'll be amazed at how much stronger your agency gets as a whole. This is a long one here from our buddy Matt. Matt says, hey everybody, I run a Google Ads agency for e-commerce and lead generation. I'm looking for awesome talent, but I'm really struggling to even get responses. I'm utilizing the audition strategy mentioned by Frankie Fihn, but I'm not even getting to the stage where people are keen to apply. Open to any feedback. Here's my job posting. Experienced Google Ads specialist, superstar needed. If you're up and coming Google Ads specialist, we are a prime marketing. We have I'll skip some of the ad here because I'll post it for you guys to read. This is my template, by the way, so this isn't just a random job ad either. I sent this to Matt. Matt, you got a bunch of comments on it from people saying, like, one of the things you mentioned is that you're looking for somebody for, where was the pay? Something like $6 an hour or something like that. Let me find it real quick in the ad. $5 to $6 an hour. A couple of things that'll probably turn somebody off. Firstly is if you're looking for somebody experienced, it means they already know how to do this, and so those people are going to charge more. And then the very first line of the ad talks about up and coming, which is the opposite of somebody who's experienced doing it, right? So there's a couple of ways you can solve this problem. Firstly, I never pay media buyers hourly, ever. Maybe that's a useful thing for you, but I usually pay them per project. I've paid them anywhere from maybe like $500 to like $2,000 on the high side. Problem is with that kind of setup, one of the challenges is on the $2,000 side. Yeah, you can get really good people, but sometimes there's nothing left over for you to make money. Like I had a deal with a client. I think I was charging like $2,800 a month or something like that. I don't know how we arrived at that, but I was paying the media buyer $2,000, and I had a virtual assistant. So after like paying them $2,400, I barely made anything. It made it almost not worth it to have that kind of client, because clients have headaches and problems and challenges and things like that. So in your case, what I may look for, the first thing is like obviously like seeing if you can find somebody by project. Another thing that you may want to consider is if your niche is tight enough, meaning like you're basically doing the same thing for a client, and you'll know that you have this right if like 90% of the work is finished even before you get a client. That's how you know your niche is really tight, because your systems are like copy and paste. Like in a way, like when you go to Starbucks, they don't have to figure out the coffee recipe. Right? They already got all the machines to do it. It's like basically that's why they're able to slap it out so quickly. Same thing with McDonald's, right? Like they have all the systems to make the burgers and the fries and things like that. It's like basically 90% done before you even get there. That's where you want your agency to be. If you have that and you can document it and get SOPs, you can have just like very average, ordinary virtual assistants. How we've done this is we have a library of ads and we have a library of copy. And we just have virtual assistants who go into the machine and plug in the different things and try out different variations. Then you can actually have people who are just getting paid like a few bucks an hour and can manage really, really high level ads. They won't be able to come up with the creatives and the working hooks. That'll be on you, or on, I'm pointing to myself, but obviously on like your side of things. If you have really strong SOPs, you can have people do those things. Or if you're going to bring in like a media buyer who knows what they're doing, you're probably just going to have to pay them a set amount per project, and you're going to have to try a project or two to make it work. But those are really the only ways. But you're probably not going to find somebody for a couple bucks an hour who's like already knows how to run ads, because if they know how to run ads, the only way you can know how to run ads is by having spent like millions of dollars. Like I've probably spent, I don't know, at least a couple of $1 million, probably a lot more than that actually, and client ads and a couple $100,000 of my own dollars. So if like somebody says to me like you can get paid $5-6 an hour, that's like I wouldn't even be interested. But if you say, hey, it's $1,000 per project and I'd like to do 20 projects, that may be more interesting, right? So paying them per project or dumbing it down so anybody can follow your system. Those are basically the two ways I've found to solve that problem. So I hope that's helpful. Carlos, good morning, peeps. Okay, got our first paying B2B client, a second one in the works, but I thought I'd ask this group an honest question. There's a lot of pessimistic, doomsday-like, to say the least, talk out there about the state of economic affairs worldwide. And then there's also the other extreme, the toxic positivity type, you're the master of the universe and can accomplish anything you set your mind to, even amidst a planetary collision kind of thing. I'm not leaning towards any of these sides. I'm regularly a pretty positive guy, and I'm convinced we all have the power to create our own reality to some extent. But as I embark on the entrepreneurial path, I feel the need to ask this group of successful entrepreneurs, how do you strike a healthy balance, and how do you keep your negative emotions and thoughts at bay? What helps you? Thank you all wholeheartedly. Carlos, this is a really good question. I know I answered this in text, but I wanted to do it in video because we got some people who follow this on YouTube who don't see what's happening in the Facebook group. So there's a lot to this. The first, like the thing that I mentioned is, firstly is like, what we want to strive for in life and in business is accurate thinking, not like everything is rainbows and butterflies, and not like doomsday, like ring the bell, end of the world is coming, but accurate thinking. Like if you want to be a successful entrepreneur, you got to be able to look at things as they are, you got to be able to look at what you really want to create, and you got to be able to like bridge that gap, and you got to be able to do that continuously to like face reality without all the drama and emotional baggage that most people bring it to it. So like, you know, for example, like if you're starting out like I was at one time, for some of you guys as you are, and there's zero in your bank account, you got to face the zero bank account. If you're trying to hire people, you got to accurately face. So it's not a glass empty versus glass half full kind of deal, because both of those ignore the fact that the glass is refillable, and it's about just taking the next step in front of you. That's part of it, is just like calming yourself down and facing the next step. That's really it. The other thing too is, I talked about this with our mastermind members. We had a big talk about this because there's so much, like, for lack of a better term, like nonsense going on in the world. There's a big group of things in our life called that which I have no control of over. And lots of things fall in that, like movies. I see people arguing about movies, and actors, and Ukraine, and COVID, and mandates, and restrictions, and all those kind of things. And I'm not saying like I'm never get sucked into those things, or that even that I'm unaware of. The economy you mentioned, you know, who wore it better? There's just sports, the sports ball, right? Like there's endless things to argue. I see people arguing about like, this team needs to fire the coach, and your opinion is stupid, and blah, blah. And those all happen in the area called the bigger things, that which I have no control over. Then there's a smaller group of things, and usually they're things you can taste and touch in your immediate reality that you have 100% control over. Like if I want to drink some water and put some water into my body, 100% control over that. And they're usually much smaller. They're my clients, they're my leads, they're my offers, they're my people, they're my employees, they're my teams, they're my audiences, they're my content, they're my ads, right? Those things, they're my family, they're my experiences, they're my friends. Those things I have the ability to influence. And what most people do is they get caught up in the bigger picture of things that they have zero control over. And a much better version of that, at least in my opinion, is to stay in your own little bubble where you have control over. It's not that I'm not aware of like that greater economy, but like, am I going to fix the whole economy? Probably not. Can I fix my personal economy? Abso-fucking-lutely, right? So that's where like you got to own up and be responsible for you and be an example for how you want to be in the world. And when you own your personal economy, you can be successful regardless of what's happening in the economy. In fact, in some ways, it's more advantageous. The skill set you learn, the shittier it gets, the more they're in demand, right? Because, you know, like I don't know if you guys have ever seen the graphics, but the worst economy in like the first stock market crash in like 1913 or whatever it was had the most amount of millionaires created in history, right? So for most people, it was the worst time in history, and for a few people, they got obscenely rich, right, from nothing. So, you know, whenever things are bad, like there's always the flip side of that is that there's opportunity galore in it. And if you focus on the opportunity instead of the greater picture you have no control over called how shit it is, then you'll do a lot better, and you'll just stay in your lane more, and you'll focus on the things that you have control over. I'm not saying I never get sucked into the things I don't have control over. I do, but I try to focus less and less and less on those things, and more on the things directly in my own control. And you just create your own little bubble in reality where you don't have to be dealing with everyone else and their kind of nonsense. Joseph says, hey, this question may be a little unrelated, but how would you guys go about creating ads to hire employees? I'm in the independent auto repair shop niche. First thing, Joseph, I would ask those people like where they go to find a job, because sometimes it's a little bit different, but most likely like an Indeed or a Monster or a Craigslist, and you just write an ad that sells your company, like what somebody awesome looks like for you, what the right fit is, why your company's a great place to work for, the pay, the benefits, the culture, those kind of things, and then you screen for those people, and that's really it. Like it's not a different new skill set. When I first started building my agency, I reached a place where I had to hire people. And I remember when I went through that transition, it was really, really hard because I didn't know anything about hiring. And then I realized that hiring people was a matter of writing great ads and following up with the leads and screening people and those kind of things. And then I'm like, oh, it's the same thing I've been doing this whole time. So it's not really a new skill set. And once you understand that, you can attract and bring in really good employees. Dragon Ass, our Macedonian man, what makes a good offer? I left you some pointers for kind of general principles to follow. One of those is it's a low risk to somebody reaching out. It's a high value result that they're after. It's a different methodology than they've seen before. It adds on versus replace. Those are some of the things I mentioned. I think I mentioned one more, but I'm blanking on what that is right now. But let me give you some real life examples of things that I've used throughout the years and that I've seen with some of our clients. So one of the things, for example, and a lot of times this is just zigging when everyone else is zagging. I'll give you a couple examples that jump to mind. So one of those that I've mentioned before is I used to do a lot of plastic surgery SEO, and it was very, very hard to sell. It was a difficult offer. And I look back in hindsight, this was my offer. Work with me for a year, pay me $1,000 to $2,000 a month, and hopefully I'll get you to #1 in Google. I'm pretty good at it, but no guarantees. Google's fucking crazy. That was my offer in a nutshell. Eventually, one day, a plastic surgeon came to me and said, hey, could you build a mommy makeover website? And I was like, yeah, why not? And then he said, could you rank that website for mommy makeover keywords? And I looked, and I was like, yeah, I think so. And he said, and do you think if we did those two things, the phone would ring with mommy makeover people? And it took about 6-12 months, but of course, we did that thing, and he got mommy makeover people. And I remember when I would go sell that to people, it was the easiest sale in the world. In fact, they would just go, oh, I want that. Sometimes the details changed. It might have been rhinoplasty, or it might have been facelifts, different procedures. But it basically boiled down to firstly, does it add on? Yes, right? You don't have to replace your existing website or anything like that. This is a new add-on. You can keep your main site. This is just for you generating mommy makeover. So right, there was nothing because if I'm trying to replace their website, I got to delete the old one. I got to back up files and blah blah blah. If I'm adding on, none of that applies, right? So it's easier to add on than to replace. Second thing, it was a small low risk because, believe it or not, it was easier to rank for those keywords, and so I didn't have to ask for a big 12-month commitment. I could be like, let's just try it for 30, 60, 90 days. And if you don't like the website, I'll give you a refund kind of thing. Here's another thing, okay, and I'm shooting you guys a finger, but here's another thing, okay, Dragon. Looking at it, it was a very high value result because the reason why they wanted that website is because it generated mommy makeover people or facelifts or rhinoplasty, which were their expensive procedures, they're the things they most wanted to sell. As were their main plastic surgery website generated a whole spectrum of leads. There were breast augmentation, there were people who wanted the Botox shit in their lips, and a whole gamut of things. And a lot of those things were nice to have patients, but they didn't make any money off it. Like a boob job, they might charge the client $4,000 to $6,000, and they have $4,000 to $6,000 in overhead to deliver it, because there's the cost of the breast augmentation, there's the cost of running the procedure. As where the $40,000 procedure, they still had the $6,000 to $8,000 overhead, but they got to keep $30,000, and it was not significantly harder or longer to do that kind of thing, right? So as a general rule, they much wanted to sell those things. So there's an example, right? It added on, it was a low risk, it was a meaningful result, and even though it was the same basic offer, which is I'll do SEO, but it was the result it produced that was more valuable. Instead of just saying, I'll get you number one in Google and your phone will ring, it said, I'll make your phone ring with this very specific type of person that you most want. I'll give you another example. Brian Aguilar is in our mastermind, and when Brian came to us, he was, like running Facebook ads for real estate agents, which, if you know anything about them, there's only like a gazillion real estate agents, and there's a gazillion people offering Facebook ads for real estate agents. And what ends up happening is about 300 people a week message you and say, is this home still available? And so what ends up happening is when a realtor run those ads, they have a new problem called following up with these leads, and they have no systems and they have no process as a general rule. And it's really exhausting for them one by one. Yes, the home is still available, trying to, have 300 different conversations. So I talked about it with Brian. I was like, these people don't need leads. They need to be able to convert the leads they actually have. And again, we're gonna add on to the existing frameworks they have. How can we help them do that? So Brian built a messenger bot that just helped the real estate agents qualify those people. And it's really, really simple. At the end of those, there's going to be 300 people. Of those 300, maybe like 3 to 10 of them are like really looking to buy a home now. And about 290 something of those people are just like, they're at the beginning of the journey, or they're curious and they want to know how much they could get for their home, but they're not looking to sell like right now today. So what we would do is he would take those 290 people and just put them on a slow simmer. He would add them to the real estate agent's mailing list, and they would do some follow-up, and it would be, happen drip feed over time. And the 3 to 10 people that were most interested, he would pass them to the real estate agent immediately and say, call these 3 people like right now because they're ready to go. And that makes their life a lot easier, right? Because now they only have 3 conversations they have to have, not instead of 290, kind of separating the wheat from the chaff. But if you think about it, it's an add-on, right? It's a low risk because they can try it for a small amount. It's a meaningful result because it helps them sell homes, right, which is what they most want to do. And it saves them a whole bunch of time in the process. And then if we think about the problem that it solves, they don't have to do all this follow-up and all this texting and all this thing. They just have to do it for a few select people, right? So it makes their whole deliverable more valuable. So when you think about your offers, think about how you can take those principles. And almost always, it's about getting out of the damn fucking box that says, I do Facebook ads or I do Google ads, and starting to think about, it's just a tool. What are my people trying to do with the tool? And what's the most meaningful result I could create for them with the tool? And how could I save them a whole bunch of time and energy in doing that and help them ultimately get what they want? And if you think about that, you'll come up with a better agency offer as a general rule. Joseph says, I'm absolutely through with fulfillment for my agency. I do want to do sales. I've struggled to scale my fulfillment and manage a team effectively. I'm well aware this is very much due to my follow-through issues. I have worked with several managers in the past 2 years, which helps, but we always have issues with quality control. This has impacted my confidence in pushing my own marketing for the last couple of years, and my sales are bottlenecked by my lack of passion and skill to successfully manage a team. I'm interested in selling my agency and retaining a position doing sales. Yes, I am niche down, and my brand is solid. I also have a burgeoning real estate portfolio that I'm super passionate about. This is where a good portion of my time goes, especially when I'm tired of the redundant issues with fulfillment. Oh, my man, Joseph. I've been there. What's up, Hetty? Good to see you. So, Joseph, here's the deal. Okay, you're at the stage of the agency where you're at the managerial stage, and it's a tough one. And I'll give you some clues that will help you better organize that. So here's the thing. Like, there's a couple of different ways you could solve this problem, and I never want to tell you there's only one way to be successful. One way is to partner with somebody who does the fulfillment. I see this all the time in law firms. So I'm actually working with a guy right now. He has a big ass law firm, and there are 2 lawyers that partner. One of them loves being a fucking lawyer and hates everything marketing, hates drumming up business, hates all of those kind of things. So he runs the entire operation. This guy's name is David. Then there's another lawyer, and he hates being a lawyer, and the only thing he likes doing is promoting the business and doing the SEO and running the ads and those kind of things. His name is Seth. And they partner together, and it's a very harmonious relationship. One guy's the sales guy, that would be like you, and one guy's the delivery guy. So you can always look for that kind of thing, is finding somebody who has the operations dialed in, who fucking hates what you do. And those people are out there, and they exist, and there's plenty of them that are good. Like I used to be, when I first started, I was really good at SEO, and I hated all things sales. As I learned more sales, the opposite is true. I love the sales and the psychology and the marketing. And like you, the fulfillment is the least interesting part of it for me. So that's one possible way you can do it. Another possible way is suck it up and learn just enough basic structures that you can bring in a manager. And here's what you need to know. I'll give you the biggest shortcut I can give you in that stage is KPIs, key performance indicators, which means there's 4 to 8 numbers that define your whole business. How many leads are we having? How many sales? How quick are we following up with people? How long is it taking to rank the website or build the website or get the AdWords working? The deliverables, how are we doing on the communication? In about 4 to 8 numbers, you can measure the output of your whole business. You want to set this up as a manager so you get a daily report of your key performance indicators, and then you can look at which numbers don't make sense, and then you can have your manager address that problem. The biggest reason people have a hard time with managing is because suddenly you get put into this reactive mode where people just bring you shit and they say things like, hey, do you got a minute? Like, you'll hear that all day long in the manager. Your employees will message you, hey, you got a minute? Hey, you got a minute for this? And what happens is if you treat all those things like equal, you'll spend a whole day and do nothing, right? Because just 80-20 says most of that is not valuable. And if you take the 80-20 of the 80-20, only about 4% of that is producing the bottom line results. So that means if 25 people reach out to you with things, only one of those is going to move the needle and 24 of those will just take up a lot of time. So the way to get out of that is to be proactive, where you look at, these are the numbers in my business, and then you look at those and you use those to make decisions about what to work on. Because if you notice, like one day our leads are down, that doesn't automatically fix your leads problem, but you know where to look and you know where to gather the team and the managers and the resources to work at that problem. So a lot of times when people struggle at the stage you're in, they just don't know how to fucking set up the managerial structure. And then the other thing is having office hours, so you're not like constantly interrupted about questions and comments. And then what'll happen is if you just tell your clients, like, I answer my questions between Monday such and such time, people will respect that and you'll have a lot easier structure to manage. So I hope that's helpful for you. Of course, you can always just sell it, like you mentioned, and be the sales guy, but a couple of thoughts on it. You may not have to. Of all those, by the way, the one I would probably be looking at in your shoes is finding the partner who's your opposite. The person who loves the things you hate and hates the things that you love, and you can just be the sales and they can be the fulfillment, and you'll give up a revenue, but you'll be able to grow so much further because you'll have somebody who can take care of all the things that you don't want to do. And we've had a few people in our mastermind go through this, and it's really, really interesting when they come out the other side because suddenly they just have like an abundance of free time. Usually takes them 6 months to figure it out from start to finish, but once they do, suddenly there's just a manager looking after it, and there's no more fires to fight, and suddenly you have 30, 40, 50, 60 hours a week of free time to think about things and figure stuff out, and that's just a really, really cool way to do it in my experience. Philip says, what is everyone charging for their SEO retainers? I know this is a general question, but I just want to get a feel for other agencies' prices and see where we fall. We are in a very competitive market, and our minimum retainer is $2,000 per month now. I'm thinking of increase it to $3,000 per month, however, with the option of doing individual services for less. Philip, I'm going to give you two things that will help you raise your price, as well as I'll just give you a general answer. I've seen everything in SEO from like the $99 a month cheap shit to I got friends who sell SEO for $20,000 a month. I'm sure there's people who charge more than that, but on the high side, that's what I have friends doing, at least in my space. The biggest thing that will impact how much you can charge ethically and get away with it and have people be happy about it is a function of two things, and they're both a function of WHO. H-O-W, not the World Health Organization, but the old WHO. First thing is who you do the SEO for. So if I do it for like a small personal injury lawyer who's one guy or one gal, I'm probably going to be like maximum $2,000 a month, like $800 to $2,000 a month is all I'm going to get. If I take that same SEO and I do it for a 30-person law firm, I'm probably going to be like $5,000 to $10,000 minimum. And if I do it for like the top guys in the market, I'm going to do it for like $15,000 to $20,000 a month. So a lot of that is just who you're doing it for, not how great you are at the SEO and how meaningful your results are. Because if you think about it, a law firm that has, say, like 8 locations, they need their ranking a lot more than one guy because they have staff and overhead costs and things. So they want the best of the best of the best, and they're willing to pay for it. Second thing is with second who is who you bring your clients. So SEO is just a tool. Like I gave the example earlier in plastic surgery, I could rank for breast augmentation keywords, I could rank for nose job keywords, I could rank for general plastic surgery keywords. I could rank for mommy makeover. By choosing what you rank for, you choose who that comes into that office. Almost always in every market, there's a couple of high volume keywords that everybody goes after, and that's the whole spectrum of leads. So like I gave the example of plastic surgery, so people would type in like plastic surgery Beverly Hills. Now when they typed in plastic surgery Beverly Hills, they could want 100 different things. So we would get every lead, the good, the bad, the ugly, everything in between. If they typed in a specific procedure like a rhinoplasty or a nose job Beverly Hills, then I knew for sure this is what they wanted, right? They wanted to get their nose fixed. And so the second thing that you control is by ranking specifically for those kind of keywords and the things they want, you can control who their phone actually rings with. And if you focus on bringing them their highest value, most expensive people, and use the tool of SEO that way, you'll be able to charge more. Like in the legal space, if I generate somebody a traffic ticket, which a lot of people call law firms about traffic tickets, what ends up happening is they'll send somebody to court and defend them and over their ticket, and they usually charge like $100. If I bring them a trucking accident case, it's often a trucking accident case because trucks cause a lot of damage and things like that. It could be a $250,000 settlement on average, right? So all things being equal, if I'm going to rank for trucking accident lawyer, I'm going to bring that firm a lot more business than if I rank them for traffic ticket lawyer, right? Like it's just basic things. And by the way, one's not any harder or more difficult than the other. In some ways, often the volume stuff is far more busy and harder to rank for because everybody wants to go after that. But if you focus on the $100 bills, so that's my way of saying, if you're at 2K, I'd say that's probably around average. If you want to raise your price in your niche, just do it for bigger people in your niche and bring them bigger people, and you can ethically charge 10, 15, 20K for those kind of services without all the pushback. So hope that's helpful for you, my friend. Just another little reminder here that I'm going to be dropping that crypto training this week. This is for being a consultant. Like one of the things that I figured out is, and I don't necessarily have the whole market crypto figured out, but there's a lot of projects that are worthwhile that need someone to consult on them. And the consulting is pretty easy to deliver because they just need like a plan of action to execute. And the plan of action is pretty much the same for most clients. Like there's a little bit of personalization, but it's kind of the same. And how we're getting paid on those projects, at least now, is getting paid for the consultation, and then a big upside if the project's right, where you get a huge amount of founders tokens. They can be worth zero, but they also can be worth millions of dollars. You do this for 5-10 projects and you'll tend to hit on at least one of them. That's at least what I'm going for. And getting them in the early, like before they launch kind of stages. So I'm going to be covering, all you guys had questions like how to vet projects, where to find them, what to say, how to deliver what you deliver. So we're going to be covering as much of that as I can. I think it's a bigger opportunity than TikTok ads right now. So I'll be sharing some of that. And everything you guys have learned in your agency space is transferable. And I've set it up as a consulting where you're just telling people what to do. So it's not really extra work. So I'll be dropping that on you guys. Make sure to keep an eye out for it. Like I said earlier, it'll be over the next couple of days when I just feel inspired to do so. But that's all I got for you guys this week, man. Like you guys are kicking ass, great questions. And that's all I got for you guys now. And if you're on YouTube, make sure to subscribe. And may the fours be with you.